Hello and welcome to this week's Spooky Saturday Creepypasta. This week's spooky creepypasta will be called The Haunter. Disneyland unveiled a new ride to the public. It was going to be a similar ride to the Haunted Mansion, in which you would ride a few cars through a scary maze of decorations. The Haunter, it was to be called, was designed to be superior to the mansion, and the mansion was going to be torn down and replaced by another attraction. Disneyland staff wanted to test the ride before it was to be officially released to the public, and decided to turn it into a raffle. Write down the name of one or two riders on a piece of paper and drop it into the large box outside the Haunter's location. The raffle was crowded for nearly half an hour, with hopeful people writing down their names to be selected. It was an excellent opportunity to be one of the first to ride this new attraction. When the crowd started to leave, a man in the Disneyland staff attire collected the box and disappeared behind an authorised personnel only section. All other keep outdoors. A few minutes later, an announcement came over the intercom. Will the following people please report to the Haunter? The announcement listed off 10 names, apparently the maximum amount of seats available. The delighted guests hurried to the ride. What may or may not have been a coincidence was that there were 5 males and 5 females. All were in their teens. Staff members, after securing them into the ride behind a safety bar and going over safety procedures, started the ride. The ride, which was supposed to be around 7 minutes long, had various elements of the Haunted Mansion, but mostly new material. Most of it had been checked to be safe and part of the raffle. Staff members monitored the progress of the ride through hidden cameras and were pleased with how the ride was working. About 2 minutes into the ride, a sudden power shortage struck the ride, plunging the testers into the dark, and the safety rails of the lift opened. The cameras began to work again, but the static engulfed the video and the audio. Vague shapes could be seen on the video, but the audio was much clearer. There was a strange clunking sound nearly lost under the screams of the riders. It seemed that every one of them was screaming. One was shouting "No!" over the tannoy, over and over again. Between the screams, Disney riders had power mistakes before, but the guests' reactions had never been so extreme. A designated park attendant made his way to the ride, equipped with a flashlight and a radio, to find the guests and escort them out of the ride. Staff monitoring the cameras endured the screams and the chaos for an uncertain amount of time, before the ride was unexpectedly began to move again. The cameras died and would not turn on again shortly after this happened. The riders emerged from the ride, and all park attendants rushed to them to check to see if they were okay. 2 riders were missing, and those remaining were covered in an unknown black gungy substance. The park attendant who was gone inside to escort them out was never found. It was reported that his radio went off around the time the raid began to move again. Staff assumed he was trying to contact them for some reason, but the only sound from it was a high-pitched whine with the faintest laughter behind it. The riders appeared to exhibit symptoms of shock and did not expect after being removed from the lift. The only after they were taken by the paramedics did one of them speak. He was asked by the paramedics what happened on the ride. That thing took them, the dead thing inside the ride. Please don't make me go back there. Please don't let them die. All riders spoke vague answers to all the questions regarding the events that occurred in the Haunter, and most never returned to the Disneyland park. A security crew entered the Haunter in search of the missing riders and the employee. They reached the point of the lift had stopped, and observed the strange black substance on the ground resembling what had appeared on to be footprints. One security guard reached down and touched it, and immediately pulled his hand back, insisting that it was burning him. The ride was dismantled, and the missing people would never be found. A new attraction was built on the spot where the haunter had been. Reports of children seeing things at the new attraction began after it was opened. One mother claimed that halfway through the new attraction, her 8-year-old son whispered to her while pointing towards the ceiling, "Mummy, look at those people. Where are their eyes?" The mother looked up. She saw nothing. Similar reports of children and people seeing the people with no eyes or black slime people appeared every now and again, and cleaning crews complained about finding black slimy footprints at the new attraction. The footage of the ride in the Haunter was reviewed after it had been torn down. The video was fine until the point where the ride's power died. The large lines of static began obstructing the view, but after all those had seen the footage, that the figure climbing into the lift to the screaming riders was visible. After the footage was carefully examined, another piece of evidence to what happened was found. When the power died, a face is just barely visible. It's smiling with the corner of its mouth gone and tiny black eyes staring straight inside the camera. Just before the ride began to move again, the face appears again, but it has 3 other faces behind it. The faces of the riders who disappeared in the park employee, horrifyingly distorted to resemble the creature. Their eyes were torn out, replaced with black gungy slime that oozing and falling out of their eye holes. Each one of them was smiling. All records of the Haunter have been presumably destroyed.